Hello, I'm Bruce Fretz. I'm here to introduce producer Wren Arthur, director Marc Turtletaub, and star Kelly Macdonald. Yeah, a little bright, a little bright.
Hello, everyone.
So, it's such a beautiful movie. How did each of you originally get interested in this project? I know it's originally based on an Argentine film, is that correct? How did you find out about it and decide to want to?
It was sent originally to myself and my production company by one of the producers named Guy Stodel, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was, I've heard, we've been doing many Q&As, so it's a beautiful, transformative story of a very specific nature of a woman in a certain place and time that I just was so I was transfixed by, and I thought, what a interesting story to tell at this moment, or any moment. I mean, it's a really, I don't know. It moved me in a way that I thought I want to make that, and I want to see that, and so that's how it first landed.
And how did these two get involved? How did you think of them for their individual roles?
We knew that Marc has a production company. He's an extraordinary producer, and his producing partner Peter Seraf and I have known each other for a long time, and we produced a documentary together. We both exec produced a documentary together, and we've been trying to find things. And I knew that Marc was trying to find a film that he wanted to direct. And you know, you just send. You go, I have a beautiful script. I know this is beautiful, and you send it, and you just hope that somebody embraces it the way that you embrace it. And he did, and you know, the rest is really truly history, because we made it, you know, we wrapped it a year ago now.
Yeah. So Marc, what did you respond to about the story?
You know, for me, first of all, hello, everyone, and thanks for coming out. For me, it always starts with the written word, and to find an extraordinary screenplay is so hard. And what Wren had been working on for I don't know how long came to me in very much the shape you see on the screen. So it started with a great screenplay. It's about a woman over the age of 40 at the center who transforms. That's so rare to find. I just had a personal connection, because when I read it, I said I saw my mother in it. Yeah. And so on a lot of levels, emotionally and then intellectually, it just appealed to me, and I grabbed it.
And Kelly is so perfect in this role. What made you guys think of her for the part?
Kelly. She's amazing, and I have enjoyed watching her, loved watching her. A few years ago, I remember seeing a movie called The Girl in the Cafe. Some of you may remember. And yeah, loving her in that, and then remembering her earlier work, and then No Country for Old Men and Boardwalk. And I started connecting the Boardwalk Empire, connecting the dots, and I went, what an incredibly versatile actress, and I'd wanted to work with her. And then when Wren sent the screenplay over, I thought this would be a great vehicle for Kelly.
And what did you think when you first read the script, Kelly?
I just found Agnes really compelling and interesting, and she sort of, on the surface of it, was not dissimilar to, you know, characters I've portrayed in the past, and that she's a bit of a wallflower. But there was just so much else going on under the surface, and I just loved the story, and I kind of wanted to get my teeth into it.
Mm-hmm. Did you go back and watch the original film, or did you not want to see it?
No, we didn't discuss it too much, so it didn't feel like a... Yeah.
It's another movie. I mean, everyone should watch it. Natalia is a beautiful filmmaker. It's a beautiful film. I think that there's a beautiful homage to it, and we care and we hold it and embrace it. But if ours is like a diorama, that's a tiny little egg that you pierce a hole into and see a world. It's a very different, much smaller film, but it's beautiful. Yeah. But no one should. No, I remember when we were having the conversation, and Marc was like, "I don't know if it was like a debate. Should I watch it? I don't want to. I'm not going to watch it." And I was like, "Don't watch it. Like, watch it later, because we're not making that movie. We're making our version of it."
Right. And the whole cast is so perfectly chosen, but I mean, particularly the main trio, Irfan Khan and David Denman. What led you to cast the two of them?
Good fortune. For Irfan, I think Irfan came second after Kelly. I hadn't thought of him naturally. Our other producing partner, Peter, had suggested Irfan, and then remembering him in The Lunchbox, which I'm sure many of you have seen, and In Treatment, which is a great vehicle for actors. I loved him in those smaller, more intimate things. You know, he's in Big American. He plays the Indian guy in those big movies, but to see him in these roles where he could really demonstrate his craft, I loved the idea and was fortunate. I Skyped with him in Mumbai, and he loved the screenplay as well. And so he signed on. And then for the Louie character, the husband, I wanted someone that had a lot of heart. I didn't want to make him a stereotype or like a stick figure, as I put it. I wanted someone that loved his wife and cared about his kids. He was just sort of stuck in his time and place. And so I thought of David, and I met with David in Los Angeles. I flew out there and met with him, and he said this exact same thing I did. Let's make him likable, because he does some things that you just want to cringe, and it will become it'll feel like 27 other movies if we make him that guy. And I think it's much more interesting to see a nuanced character that he is.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about the movie is that there's no bad guys. You know, they're just everyone's kind of flawed.
Just people.
Yeah, people, exactly. Did you know Irfan? I mean, you both worked with Danny Boyle, I think.
Yeah,
previously,
I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
We shot the film. The first few weeks we shot all the family scenes. It was kind of like doing two different movies. So we did all the family stuff, and then my family wrapped, and I was
except for you,
devastated. And then Irfan arrived, and he just brought this whole different energy, and it was it breathed new life into what we were shooting, because we were all getting a bit tired. I was getting a bit tired. But he's just such a charismatic performer, and just so watchable, and it's physical as well, which I really loved.
Yeah. So what was it like shooting the actual puzzle construction scenes? I mean, was there any trickery going on there, or how did you actually pull that off?
Well, she did them in real time, of course.
There was a lot. They all had to wait for me for a change on set.
60-day shoot.
There was lots of puzzles at various points of completion, and I think it was just a tortuous job for the prop department. I felt so sorry for them. I really, really did.
It was.
And then for my side of things, I kind of, if Agnes was sort of in the midst of a puzzle, I would sort of really pedantically sort of work out my area of the puzzle and take my pieces and then put them in odd places and sort of have to remember. I became a bit of an autist about it. Like I really, but I didn't mind. I like a puzzle.
We puzzled on the side.
Really?
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Side puzzles happening all over the
Was it hard to putting a puzzle together cinematic? I mean, was that a challenge for you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, somewhat. I think what we focused on more was the people's faces, because to me it's not a movie about jigsaw puzzles. I didn't want to make the competition. I mean, it wasn't trying to make the Rocky of jigsaw puzzles. I mean, that's what I think people think going in, and it just didn't interest me. And so for me, it's about the characters. It's about, how this one woman changes, how her change affects everyone in her family and the people in the world that she meets. And that's what interested me about the screenplay, and that's what's so beautiful. So we focus not so much. There are moments I wanted to show the tactile nature of it, and Kelly does that beautifully, where she'll touch. I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you noticed, the way she'll touch the puzzle, and even in the sound design, we'll pour it out and you'll hear sand. And we wanted to feel almost sensual, like that was her first connection to something that opened the door for her. So it was more about her and Irfan and how they were reacting to it than the actual puzzle itself.
Right.
Or the competition. It wasn't about winning it, thank goodness.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge for you about playing this role, Kelly? I mean, you seem to have nailed the American accent, but was
That felt like the biggest challenge going
Really?
into it. Also, if I'm doing an accent I've never done before, that sort of takes up a lot of my brain space. And then I didn't, so much so that I didn't do a single puzzle before shooting the film. That sort of, I just forgot. And and yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
I don't remember either. No, the biggest challenge aside from the accent. I mean, or maybe it was the accent.
Well, I wanted, I mean, it was all on the page. The writing was so great. And I was aware that she's similar, like I said, to characters I sort of dabbled in before. And I just wanted to do, she's just more, there's more oddness to her. And so I was hoping to get that right.
Yeah. Did you see any similarities to your character in Boardwalk Empire? Because I know Steve Buscemi was also a producer on this as well. I know you've worked with Steve.
Yeah,
worked with Steve before.
so it was great. It was so lovely when he came to visit set, because I kind of, by the time he came to visit, he just sort of was leaving us to it, and then he turned up, and it was like a lovely. I'd forgotten.
Steve is my producing partner.
Right.
But similarities with Margaret.
Yeah. I mean, she sort of came into her own in a way too. She started.
Yeah,
out
I mean, Margaret's wily in a way that Agnes is absolutely not. She's sort of got truth Tourette's or something, and she finds, like, she does try and lie, but it's not entirely convincing. No, I think they're very different characters. Yeah.
How do you look back on that experience now? I mean, that was your first American TV show. It was, a different kind of exposure for you in a way. I mean, where do you sort of place it in the?
I mean, that Boardwalk changed my life. It was like I never went to drama school, and I'd never been involved in a project before where I didn't know what the end result was going, like where the character was going. Like I would read a script and it would all be there, but all I had going into Boardwalk was the pilot, and they were very secretive. But the scripts as we were going along, and it was all a bit last minute a lot of the time, and so it kind of was like a brilliant, like I was just learning so much, and I did scenes that if it was, say it was a film, like a one-off thing, there were certain things that at that time might have put me off going in for a part if I didn't want to do a certain scene, or if I didn't feel confident that I could pull something off. And then it's all out of your hands. Like I was Margaret and that was it. And they would write the stuff and I would have to do it. And there's a strange, freedom in that. And it gave me a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah. When did you know that you wanted to be an actress? I mean, I know Trainspotting was a big break for you, and you were working as a corrector, you were working as a barmaid when you auditioned for that?
I was working in a bar restaurant. Yeah. I've just always known it. I just didn't know how it was going to happen, but I always felt it was going to. Even though there was, I grew up in the south side of Glasgow, and nobody I knew even went to the theatre, never mind worked in the theatre, or, I didn't understand. I was kind of silently furious at my parents for not having moved to the States when my mum was pregnant with me, because I thought an American accent was just something that you would have to have. I did.
Apparently not.
You got to be annoyed at your mum at something, and that was the first thing.
And Wren and Marc, you've also both acted. I mean, did you start out initially both as actors before transferring to producing and directing? Or?
Yep.
I did. I have tiny cameos, which I keep reminding everyone about.
No, I mean, that was my.
Right.
I went to Tisch School of the Arts. I went to the Experimental Theatre Wing. I was very much in that arena, and I got a strange opportunity to work with Robert Altman, and he broke my heart one day by telling me that I should be a producer, because I had said, like, he liked my ideas and throwing things around, and I just started crying. I mean, I literally started crying. I was like, I can't believe you. And he was like, oh God, you are an actress. All right, fine. So I reluctantly became a producer, but I love it very, very, very much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always be an actor, but I will never audition, and probably you'll only see me in some strange little bit and not know that it's me, maybe.
And Kelly, you worked with Robert Altman too on Gosford Park.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? He's such a huge figure in American cinema. I mean, that was a British film, I know partially, but what was your experience like? Have you guys talked about the Altman experience?
I mean,
we met each other.
Yeah,
That's
that's what we met on that film, and it was just an incredible. I went along for not an audition. It was in his hotel in Piccadilly or wherever his hotel was, and I went in to meet with him. He was on the phone when I went into his suite. And he was on the phone the entire time I was there. And I don't know who he was on the phone to. I was sort of sitting, and every now and then he would try and bring me into the conversation he was having. So he was like, I'm with this wonderful actress. And I'm like, and so that was kind of it. And then I got a phone call from him saying, come play with us. And that's exactly what it was. Just, that's what he was doing. He played with actors. He would put a bunch of actors on the set, throw stories at us, and mic everybody, and it was just such fun for him. It's terrifying for the rest of us, but he had a great time.
Yeah. And Marc, you've done more work as a producer than you have as a director. Little Miss Sunshine, for example, nominated for an Oscar. Also with Big Beach, I guess, the same company that did this movie. Yep. What has made you want to expand into directing as well in more recent years?
A lack of common sense, I think. I love both. I love both roles. I love producing and I love directing. I just have had a feeling for some time I wanted to be on the other side. And when you have the opportunity to work with Kelly and Irfan and David and even the young actors that were in this movie, it makes your job so much easier. We didn't rehearse at all, so we talked about key scenes. We blocked, and then I got the joy of watching it unfold in a live fashion, and I love that. I was saying earlier today, I read an article about an older American director, and he was saying, every time I cast an actor, it's like a little death. I don't know if any of you have read that. And I was thinking, geez. And what he was saying was, I have an idea how those words should be said and embodied, and no actor is going to do it the way I'm envisioning it. So it's like a little death. And for me, I just immediately railed against that. I went like, no, it's an opportunity to find something that you would never have imagined when you have a Kelly and an Irfan and a David. And so for me, it's just, I love the collaboration. I love it's a wonderful process. I really, I'm privileged to be able to do it.
Yeah. Kelly, when you were growing up and didn't really know anyone in the theater, but had some idea that you wanted to act, who were your kind of role models? Who did you want to become like?
Calamity Jane was I keep talking about Calamity Jane. I wanted to be Doris Day in Calamity Jane. I don't sing or dance or any of that stuff, but I just that was who I sort of focused on. And then I went from her to Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment. The Apartment for me is just a perfect film, and it's very dark subject matter, but you forget because there's such humor there. It's a comedy, but it's it's life, like it's dark and light, and I just wanted to do that.
Yeah. And Trainspotting really first put you on the map. I mean, how did that change your life just to be in that movie and have it become the phenomenon that it became?
It's really in retrospect you see it, it's not history while you're there. But I can see now that the 90s are back. I don't know if you're aware.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're back. I was just really fortunate. I got really incredibly lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and it changed my life. Although I did go back to work in the bar for a bit after I filmed it. Yeah, and then it started getting a bit awkward. But
And I mean, you've worked with some amazing filmmakers and filmmakers with seemingly very different styles. I mean, working with the Coen brothers on No Country for Old Men, I mean, how different are they from, say, Robert Altman in terms of their approach to working with actors?
Well, I think the things great directors have got in common is a love of actors and what they do, and just that thing that Altman had of just wanting to play and Joel and Ethan are very much like that. They're just always finding things kind of quietly funny. They're always like, I mean, especially Ethan, he laughs like, he goes, like completely silent. But I think life tickles them. And again, it's that dark and light thing. Yeah, so they are actually quite similar.
Yeah. And then you got to be part of the Harry Potter universe.
A millisecond, yeah.
How did that? I mean, did that give you any cool cred with your kids, or introduce you to a new audience, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of delighted. I'm very good friends with Colin Firth, and it gives me no end of pleasure to sort of. There's these certain films that everybody's like, oh, every British actor was in that, like Gosford Park. Colin wasn't in it. Harry Potter. Colin wasn't in that either.
We have a couple questions that we ask everybody here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and this might apply to all of you since you've all acted. Do you remember what role got you your SAG card?
I do. I was producing a movie with Julianne Moore and Pierce Brosnan called Laws of Attraction, and we were shooting in Dublin, and I had no intention to act, and the director said, would you like to walk on and you be a judge and just have to, I think I could walk, I could do that. And then a couple of days later, he said, would you mind saying one line? And I said, sure, I could do that. And then a couple of days later, he said, I could conflate those two roles and you could have 4 or 5 lines. And then it suddenly dawned on me, oh, I actually have to know what I'm doing. And I did it, and I realized, okay, even if I don't do it right, it's not a live play. I'll have a chance to keep doing it, and I loved it. I mean, Pierce Brosnan and Julianne Moore and me, right? And when the movie, it's a 15-second scene. When the movie came out, I was in 5 seconds of the trailer, so that was my moment in time.
And what about you,
The,
Wren? Do you remember?
the gingerbread man.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I got to kiss Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, not bad.
Nice.
Not bad. Kelly, do you remember what it would have been?
I
or?
mean, I kind of, these things sort of happen, and I don't, my attention to detail is really horrible, but would it be the first film I've...
Probably, yeah. I would
So
think
that would
yeah.
be probably a film called Entropy that I did quite a long time ago. I think that was the first time I'd ever been to LA. I thought Hollywood was Burbank. I was staying in a hotel in Burbank, and I thought that was it. And I'm like, it's really not what, maybe I'm not as furious at my mum anymore. Yeah.
And we have a couple questions from the audience. I just want to ask one more question that we always ask. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten from another actor that you can pass along to these actors in the room? Any of you can take that if you want.
It's a hard one.
Yeah?
I think, I mean, I don't know if anyone ever told me, but I just am aware that you 90% of it is listening to your, who you're playing opposite. I think that's listening and reacting seems really obvious, but that's not always what people do. Sometimes people have it in their head what they're going to do, and they will not deviate no matter how you present, a piece of dialogue to them. But I think, just listening.
Yeah. A couple quick questions. So, a question for Kelly from Courtney. You've been in everything from indie films like Trainspotting to popular mainstream TV shows like Boardwalk Empire. As your career progresses, what types of projects are you more drawn to? More the indie films or the TV series or the?
It really doesn't matter. It's really the writing and the characters. Like, I could care less. I quite often don't know if I'm in. I just shot something and I had to ask. It was a couple of weeks in and I said, what is this for TV or what's the... I had no idea. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, the lines are disappearing, I guess. A couple questions from Melissa Fenton, who comments on the purity of the characters and the simplicity of the sets being extraordinary and how beautifully the artistry of the film played out. The question for Kelly is, how did you prepare for the quiet nature of Agnes?
Well, I hadn't, in reading the script, I hadn't quite, I hadn't realised how much of her time is on her own, and I don't know how to answer it. I just did it. I don't know. Yeah. I'm okay in my own company and kind of, I think Agnes has got like a large, like her inner world is her entire world, and I think I've got something along those, like not my entire world, but I'm kind of okay in my own company, and so yeah.
That's good. And for Marc and Wren, how did you choose the music for the film?
So when I was temping the movie, I had a music editor and my picture editor, and they had worked together before, and they started putting in different cues at different places in the temp, and every so often I'd say, "So who is that?" And they'd say, "That's Dustin O'Halloran," and I'd say, "Who is that cue?" And it was Dustin again. Dustin was nominated for Lion for his score for that, and so I just loved his work. Got to meet with Dustin. He loved the movie and agreed to do it, and then returned to Berlin, which he didn't tell me he was going to do at the time. So we ended up, I knew he was back and forth. We ended up doing it long distance from New York and Berlin. And then he introduced me to Anna Brun. We had considered a couple other singers for the end song. And Anna's a Swedish woman, a Norwegian woman who lives in Sweden, and they co-wrote the last song. So we just started temping with him and loved his music, and I think it's really quite beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful movie from beginning to end, and it comes out on Friday. So everyone tweet and
go if you like it.
Facebook, and thank you for joining us, Kelly Macdonald,
Thank
Wren
you
Arthur,
so much.
Marc Turtletaub.